Yeah, remember a couple of months ago, a lot of us, me included, were saying, boy, this is a pretty quiet storm season. Yeah, not so much. Big Milty. We got to talk about that today, as well as Ron DeSantis owning this moment. I've paid attention to this guy for quite some time, just living in Florida and, being aware of him and then all of us through the campaign. But, boy, tired Ron, when he's a little bit worn down, he's doing all these press conferences, that's best Ron. Speaking of dropping the hammer, what got into CBS? You probably didn't see the 60 Minutes thing. They hammered Kamala. We'll get into that as well. It's Amazon Prime Day, and I think we found the snobbiest phone users in the world. iPhone users. I'm in that camp as well. All right. Let's make fun of some news. Wicked Radio, Tuesday, October 8th. I'm Bill Adams. Thanks for finding me as always. Not a lot to make fun of with this storm. Big Milton, Hurricane Milton. As of, and I was just checking this right before we went on, they still have this at 155 miles per hour. Massive storm. I mean, it's just a beast. And still pretty much on track to hit the Tampa Bay area. A lot of these models coming together. More on the models in just a second here. But it's just, it's a tough, tough scene. You want to look at the light in any darkness. I think the good news here is that I think most people in the Tampa Bay area anyway heeded the warnings to get out of that place to evacuate, because I'm sure you saw them too. Some of the overhead shots of I-75 and I-4 in the Tampa area. A lot of people getting out of it, and that's a terrible situation to be in. To be stuck in the road trying to get out of there. A lot of people running out of gas. It's just awful. So hearts and prayers for those folks for sure. And again, this is going to be a situation just like Helene. Can we rely on the government? It's going to be Americans helping out Americans again. That's what it's going to be. And this is going to be the true test to see what happens with this. Speaking of the models, this is an amazing thing that's actually changed with Storm, I guess, predicting. The technology is amazing. We said this a little bit with Helene just, week and a half, 2 weeks ago, how accurate they've gotten this. Nobody could have predicted that ocean of, brown water drowning those poor folks in western North Carolina. But as far as where the storm hit, unfortunately, Florida's west coast again, in the Big Bend area, they got a lot of that right. And with the models, it's incredible how it's come and how the National Hurricane Center has kind of changed. And you may have noticed this if you paid attention for quite some time to how they present the models. Wasn't that long ago. It was like 3 seasons ago, back in the radio days, but not that long ago, I literally got yelled at on the air by a National Hurricane Center forecaster talking about the models. And it was a simple question. I mean, it honestly was. I just said, we had him on the air and it was some storm coming. And I said, well, a lot of the models seem to be converging on this. And he interrupts me and he goes, don't talk about the models. Never tell people about the models. I was like, hold on. They're available everywhere and they're getting better and better. And remember, this was 3 years ago. Freaked out. No, the cone, anything could change. Talk about the cone. Here's how it's changed now. Now look at the Hurricane Center and the Weather Channel because of the technology that the Weather Channel will have on National Hurricane Center experts along with Mike from Mike's Weather Page, because all he does is post the models, because that's the information that's available to people. That information that's out there for everybody has forced the Hurricane Center to change how this presents to people. Just going through a bunch of different storm seasons, you got to do what you got to do to prepare, but here's my own personal opinion about that. Respect the cone, right? Because things can change, but pay attention to the models. That's my own personal philosophy. Anyway, a lot can change. A lot can change with this thing, with this storm, obviously. But the technology's out there. Use it, and it's amazing how far they've come with that stuff. So that's the good news. And there's also this. I've seen a lot of this online. I know a lot of you think that this is a thing. I know. I've heard it a lot, too, from a lot of friends and family. So I get where you're coming from. I totally understand it. But, guys, I know the storms have been frequent. I don't think the government has the power or ability to control hurricanes. Okay? Can we say that clearly and concisely? Now, would they if they could? I wouldn't put it past them. But I don't think they can. I think that's a conspiracy theory that's not quite solid yet. Here's why I think that. The government can barely run a post office. I don't think they can control storms, okay? I think we may be overestimating them, just a little bit. All right. But believe what you want to believe. I'm not here to judge. All right. We'll update you as we go on Big Milton, because that storm is just a beast. We're going to have to help out our fellow Americans on that as well. Speaking of helping out, So it's been another fascinating thing to see the development of Ron DeSantis. Now, just being down here in Florida, and I've interviewed him twice, I think it was. First time was when he was running for office the first time for governor of Florida. Nobody knew who he was. Nobody did. So we're asking him a bunch of questions. The second time was he was already in office, and I think that was actually for some storm prep. I've noticed something about Ron DeSantis. The best Ron is when he's a little bit tired. The guy's a good administrator. He is. You may be mad at him. You may not. You may be upset that he even dared to run against Trump. I guess that's just politics. I understand. I totally get that. Politics gets dirty. The guy's a good administrator. Like, he would be a great president down the road when things are settled already. Not now. We need a disruptor, right? I think that's the appeal of Trump. Not right now, but he's good in administrating and managing things. But he's best when he's a little bit worn out. Now, the guy has done endless press conferences. I don't think he's sleeping at all from the emergency operation centers throughout pretty much every Gulf Coast county in the state of Florida. When his filter is off and he starts like revealing how he really feels and he gets worked about things, he's really awesome. Case in point, I won't play you the audio of Kamala on the tarmac from yesterday, but she started to dig in on DeSantis, saying that he hasn't responded to my calls, and it's irresponsible that he's bringing politics into this. Well, DeSantis, Heavy D, was not having any of that. One of his many interviews yesterday, he was talking to Fox News. I think it was Fox and Friends. I may be wrong on that. This is Ron pushing back on Kamala Harris. You want to talk about dropping the hammer on somebody.
And so for Kamala Harris to try to say that my sole focus on the people of Florida is somehow selfish is delusional. She has no role in this. In fact, she's been vice president for 3.5 years. I've dealt with a number of storms under this administration. She has never
Tell him, Ron.
Contributed anything to any of these efforts.
And then, this is a two-parter, guys. I know it's long, but it's worth it. And then he gets even more worked up because the follow-up question, I don't know who it was on Fox, but good job. Because they did a good job revving him up a little bit more. Like, he's on a roll, so you want to keep him going, so you follow up with a question like, has she even called you? Ron, what's up with that?
Has she ever called her trying to blunder into this? No. And here's the thing. Has she ever called before? She has no role. No, she has no role in this process. I'm in contact with the President of the United States. I'm in contact with FEMA director. I'm obviously managing all our state agencies. We're supporting all our local government. And I will say this. I've had storms under both President Trump and President Biden, and I've worked well with both of them. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm, and she's doing that just because of her campaign. She's trying to get some type of an edge. She knows she's doing poorly.
He wrapped that up. It's a little too long to play, but he wrapped it up by saying, I don't have time for this. That's where he's really good and not having it. And we'll see. First and foremost, our concern is for the people in the west coast of Florida and inland. But secondly, let's see how she responds to this one this time. Didn't go well with Aline. It still doesn't go well, so we'll see what happens with that. Speaking of dropping the hammer, it's not going to be all politics here. But, in fact, I don't think this is a political story. I think this is a media story. What got into CBS? Did you see the 60 Minutes interview with Kamala? What am I asking? Probably not, because very few people even watch 60 Minutes anymore, so I totally get it, and I didn't watch it live either. The takeaway is not her response. You can guess that. The takeaway is they actually asked her real questions. How sad is it these days that we're actually shocked at the media outlet? Like, it's not the old Mike Wallace days on CBS, when they actually ask real questions these days. Well, what's going on there? That's amazing. Wow. Real journalism. Now, two possibilities. Here's one, and this actually may be a thing. The Harris campaign, without her knowing, may have said to CBS, maybe she'll hit it out of the park. Feel free to ask her real questions. This guy, Bill Whitaker, he's doing the interview. He's a good journalist. Feel free to ask her questions. That may be one possibility. The other possibility remember, this is on CBS, right? They're just coming off that disastrous vice presidential debate where most of the country, even independents and Democrats, said, oh, yeah, that was 3-on-1. I mean, they tried to gang up on J.D. Vance, but he did very well. That's a possibility, too. Regardless, how it all came out was pretty amazing. You want to, if we look back, if we look back and we see that Kamala's campaign fell apart, I swear to you guys, this may be the moment. He asked her about the border crisis, Her response is one thing. It's the question that really is the shocking thing.
And solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally,
yeah.
we have been offering solutions.
What I was asking was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem. Okay.
But the numbers did quadruple.
And the numbers today,
watch.
because of what we have done, we have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
But should you
we
have done
cut
that?
the
Should you
flow
have
of
done that?
fentanyl by half. But we need Congress to be able to act, to actually fix the problem.
Followed up with, first of all, when was the last time you heard an interviewer of any of them actually say, what I was asking was, you never hear that anymore. To me, the story there is what got into seat. That would be great. Can you imagine if we had a real free press that actually held everybody, Republicans and Democrats, and everybody held them to the carpet and got some real answers instead of this propaganda press we have these days? That would be phenomenal. Of all the questions he asked, and there were a lot of them. I mean, he asked about the border, the economy, why you flip-flop on so many things. He actually said at one point, well, here's one reason why Americans may not trust you. They may not know you because you flip-flop. And then he brought up all the issues she flip-flopped on. It was like phenomenal. I wish I watched it live. I may rewatch it again. I don't know. But here's the most revealing moment of all those topics, of all of them. The most revealing of all was the gun thing. Remember she said, I don't know which one it was, where she said, Tim Walz and I are gun owners. Well, he actually followed up on that as well. This is the moment where she squirmed the most. Her most uncomfortable moment was talking about the Glock.
That's not the first time I've talked about it.
So what kind of gun do you own, and when and why did you get it?
I have a Glock.
Squirming in the seat.
I've had it for quite some time.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, look, Bill, my background is in law enforcement. And so there you go.
Have you ever fired it?
Yes. Of course I have. At a shooting range. Yes, of course I have.
Of course. Nervous laughter. She was squirming. I know we don't have the visual, and this is mostly an audio presentation here, but man, you got to see the squirm. And the nervous laughter. It's like, now, listen, I've taken a lot of heat for this before. I've publicly said I think she has a drinking problem, and she still may. That one right there, she was totally sober, and that was like imposter syndrome. That was, he caught me. Of course I have. She tries to turn the tables. Your question is preposterous. Wow. More of that, CBS, mainstream media, please. All right, let's get out of that crap for a second here and talk about something a little bit lighter, I think. Amazon Prime Day, all kinds of deals to be had throughout the country. This is a big, big deal. All right. Just going to say it, maybe I missed it. Now, Amazon, despite and there really are deals to be had here for the consumer. There really are. I mean, it's like I have my house. There is a mountain of Amazon boxes living with all women every single day. It's like our life depends on it these days. And it really has changed the retail situation in the face of merchandising in the country. And I totally get that. And there are deep deals to have, especially on electronics today. I may have missed it, but I went on Amazon a little bit earlier before we started the live stream and the podcast. Is there any hurricane storm benefit coming from Amazon? And there may be some kind of drive or a private thing, and I may have missed it. But despite the fact there are deep discounts, they make billions off of these Prime days, Amazon Prime, billions. Think they could kick in a little? It would be amazing if Amazon became an outlet for donation relief for victims of Helene and, God forbid, big Milton that's coming here to the Florida West Coast. Just saying, just throwing that out there. Maybe if we all kind of get together and ask Bezos to do that. Come on, Bezos, get on the stick. Get off your hot wife and help out your fellow Americans, for God's sakes. Speaking of electronics, well, I think I found the issue that's dividing the nation, everybody. We thought for the whole time it was conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, Republicans. No. What's dividing the country is iPhone versus Android. Listen to this study. And they interviewed a lot of people apparently for this. And 22% of people with iPhones, I'm one of them, I've got mine here, admit that they look down on Android users. 23% of those people said they'd never date one. Wow. 22% admit that they think less of somebody if they see that green text bubble come through. 23%, like I said, claim they'd never date an Android user. And at first I saw this and I said, well, that's kind of sad. I mean, that's really snobby. And I thought about it a little bit more and I said, wait a minute. What are some of the other things that people will discount somebody on a date? You wouldn't date a non-smoker, right? You wouldn't date somebody that, a lot of people won't date somebody that has a different sports team preference. So actually, come to think about it, this kind of makes sense. It's a big lifestyle thing. This is the electronic leash. We all rely on our phones. People have dumped people for less. And I got to tell you, why is this still a thing? I'm an iPhone user. I have a lot of friends who are Android users. Why to this day do they still not see my text or vice versa? And they still get the little, or they'll get the little box sometimes if I send them an emoji and they don't get it. Why is that still a thing? What would have happened if Steve Jobs was still around? I tell you that much. All right. Thanks for finding the live stream. I'm out of material. I got to get going. This will live, as always, on a post on X and on YouTube, and the audio version of the podcast posts right after the show, usually before 9 a.m. Eastern time every single day on Apple, speaking of them, podcasts, and on Spotify. I appreciate your time so much. I really do, and sharing that along really means a lot. And just, remember, even though we like to joke around about this stuff, it's no laughing matter with this storm, this Milton storm. Keep an eye on it. And I think it's going to be another situation where fellow Americans help out fellow Americans. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers, but also do something for them. And if you know somebody that's evacuating that area, like I'm going to do right now because I'm on the East Coast, you can DM me if you need some help, if you need some place to stay. So keep that in mind. Have a great day. Don't take any crap from anybody. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon.